You've arrived at Face the Book TV episode number 19 podcast in our book printing series. And we'd like to welcome all our viewers and on the live stream and our audio listeners. We really appreciate you coming to our podcast, and we'd love to hear from you. So please post comments and questions if you would like during the podcast, and afterwards we'll make sure that you get them answered. So Facebook TV is a podcast. We're now in our 19th episode. We started in about 2008 and had a break, but we're back, and we focus on the publishing process, and we give voice to the diverse and growing community of independent publishers, booksellers, and readers. We try and connect all those groups. And we poke around inside bookshops and coffee shops and print shops, libraries, book clubs, and any place where people are writing, designing, producing, selling, or reading books. So we have a form. It's on our blog. It's piercepress.com/podcasts. You'll find the Face the Book TV podcast. And if you would like to use our self-booking form, that's linked there. And we are also diving headlong into the swirl of new formats that have emerged in the era of social media. So audio, interactive publishing, ebooks, things like that. Our aim is to help our audience discover exciting new independently published books and learn how to publish their own. So without further ado, I'm Charlotte Pierce. I'm the producer, and I will introduce our panel. Bailey Davis from Ingram Content Group. Hi, Bailey. Brandy Harrell from Freezens, Canadian-based printing company with all those gigantic presses that we love to watch when books are being printed. And the wonderful Eddie Vincent. He's the president of IPNE, which we're affiliated with, and he's also the head of Encircle Publications, prolific fiction publisher. So Eddie, it's all yours. I'm going to bow out and run the back end here.
Thank you, Charlotte. Well, let's start by having the guest introduce himself. Bailey, could you start and introduce yourself and your company to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I am Bailey Davis at Ingram Content Group. I am the supervisor of our content acquisition sales team who works with publishers of all sizes to help get them access to print-on-demand solutions and also access into the Ingram wholesale network. I started at Ingram in 2014 in the customer service department. I probably worked with a lot of people who my teams manage today. And what I do and what my team does is work with small to mid-sized presses, independent publishers, growing publishers, to provide to them some opportunities and solutions for print-on-demand and wholesale access through Ingram Book Company and other wholesalers and retailers into the market. If anyone wants to ask questions about anything we talked about today on the Ingram side, please feel free to reach out to me. You can do that by going to getstarted.ingramcontent.com, and we will be happy to answer your questions if we don't answer them today.
Thank you. Brandy, would you like to introduce yourself and talk about your company real quick?
Well, I don't know how much I'd like to. Hello, everyone. I'm terribly nervous for probably no particular reason, but we might as well break the ice with that. My name is Brandy Harrell. I work for Friesens Corporation, which is based in Altona, Manitoba, Canada. I myself live right outside of Nashville, Tennessee, as I manage the southeastern states on behalf of Freezens. We have representatives spread out in 17 territories all across Canada and the U.S. So if you're dealing with someone to print your book, they live and work in the communities in which they serve. Freezens is a 114-year-old book manufacturer, everything from hard cover to soft cover to color printing to black and white web, and all of the special effects and binding techniques that are in between there. We service from your largest publishing groups like Hachette or Penguin Random House, all the way down to independent self-publishing authors that want small runs of books. Our website is www.friesens.com/books. And if you have any questions that you don't think of today to submit to our panel, and you'd like to contact me further after the show, you can always email me, and that's Brandie with an IE, H as in my last name, at Friesens.com. And if it's not a question that particularly pertains to the region in which I manage, I'll connect you with the appropriate person at Friesens.
Thank you, Brandie. That was great. So let's start off with the conversation of why someone would go with print on demand versus traditional publishing. I think I'm going to start with Bailey. Can you give an insight on that from your perspective?
Yeah, so some people might, have this decision to make. Do I go with print on demand, or do I go with a traditional print run? Some things that come into play that I always like to talk to our publishers about, because we work with a lot of publishers who do both. We have, a few things that you need to think about. For those, offset print runs, for those large print runs, how are you going to get into the wholesale market? So once you have them printed, how do you sell them? So, one way that you might make that decision is if you do have someone who can help you sell that printed inventory. Certainly, if the project makes sense for that, that's great. But if you're going to need help to actually sell that inventory into the market, print on demand will very well be a great solution for you, because with print on demand, you actually get access without holding any inventory to sell that content. Other people might, have a decision to make between print on demand and traditional offset because of the risk associated. Whenever you really invest a lot of cash up front and you have a set of inventory sitting in a basement, in a warehouse, wherever you have it sitting, that is risk associated, because you want to make sure that you sell through it. And so, it might be that they want to, reduce the risk of having too much inventory on hand that they might not move through, or not ordering enough, because no one has that crystal ball to know exactly how much they need to order. And then another reason publishers might, decide print on demand versus traditional offset is who the target audience is that they're going for. Something that we talk a lot about is, whenever you have the opportunity to do offset, it is usually because you want to do spot coating or French flaps, or these really beautiful effects that you hope to really get attention and get someone's conversion to purchase when they're holding that book and experiencing that physical book. And in order for that to be the case, they need to be in the retail stores. They need to be able to physically walk and hold those books. And so if you aren't looking to do a full trade discount and full returnability and market your books to retail buyers, sometimes it does make more sense to do print on demand, because most of those purchases happen online. So there are a few different pieces that can go into that decision. Those are some of the few, kind of factors that play into that. And then sometimes if you think about that fully loaded cost, having that warehouse, having to have that printing and then pay for your warehouse and then pay to pick, pack, and ship it again, fully loaded costs can come into play there. So there's definitely, the per unit cost for print on demand is higher per unit. And that's definitely a reality and a conversation that we have with our publishers. But, on the other side, you think about warehousing and pick, pack, and shipping. And so that's why some people might play those decisions against each other.
Well,
I'll let Brandie kind of add on to that too.
Well, that I was just about to ask Brandie, from your perspective, Brandie, which is going to be a little different. What would be the reasons you would find that people would want to go traditional? Because you're a traditional printer versus a POD. What's the real benefit from your perspective?
Well, everything that Bailey says is very valid. I think that there is a spot for both types of printing, depending upon the project that you have in front of you, depending on what your mode of sale is going to be, depending on the audience that you have as an author. We have a division that is Friesens Press, and that is a self-publishing entity helping self-publishing authors. And in that division, we assist people in at least starting out with print on demand if it's not a project that we feel is good to transition into a larger print run. But mainly, I think that doing a press run gives you a great deal of options to control the aesthetic of your book, to control the message of that book. Very often, this author, this publishing company has spent a long time on this story, on this design, on these illustrations. So it's going to allow you a much greater wealth of options in the types of paper that you can print on, in the finishing effects that Bailey mentioned, whether that's spot UV or these are foils or these are embossings. We also open up your door for any kind of sizing. I know that print on demand has some limitations and you're kind of in some template sizing, as well as all of the binding options, the style of the spine of the book. So it gives you a lot of aesthetic options. Also, Freezens has a great deal of sustainability initiatives within our company. I like to say that they were green before being green was cool. We can offer a lot in the way of using soy inks and using recycled papers, and making your project more eco-friendly and having less of a negative footprint. And you can always look at, when you are doing those print runs, into arranging some of that fulfillment or warehousing with the printing company that you're dealing with. It definitely drives down your per unit cost, allowing you to make more per book return on investment when you are selling through the books that you printed.
I know today we have one of our members watching that does his printing overseas because of price. It's a coffee table book. It's full color all the way through. How does your company pricing compare to like overseas in China? Is it worth doing it over at your printing plate instead of all the shipping and everything? I mean, is there a comparable cost, or is it really outrageously different?
Well, just like in manufacturing anything, it's obviously cheaper to manufacture it overseas, which is why, half of the things in my house probably say that they are manufactured in China. So the cost is never going to be the same. I will say, in the case of Freezens, that we are located in Canada right now, those exchange rates are very favorable. So it is bringing some of that price relief to our U.S. customers, at least. Where it wins, though, and where it is certainly won during this pandemic, are with all of the problems that have, come about with doing business overseas. There are some really long wait times. There are some real freight concerns, and I'm sure you guys hear on the news all of the problems at the port. That's definitely extending into the book industry. So we've saw a lot of publishers that's their traditional model start to move to trying to find North American solutions to save on that freight and to save on that timing. In our case, we're only 7 miles over the border from North Dakota. So we have a relationship with a warehousing shipping facility that's in North Dakota. So in dealing with Freezens, you don't deal with any sort of customs or tariffs. We actually transport your books across the border for you, and we ship them out from North Dakota. So everything looks much more domestic. So that's been attractive.
That's great. So I have a different question for Bailey. So Bailey, with the quality issue of print on demand versus traditional, do you see new technology coming out in the near future that is going to make it comparable so that you can get other books, high-end books?
Yeah. So, I think one thing to like kind of discern is like the difference between quality and features. So, over the past few years, print on demand technology has come leaps and bounds. And so, it's really at a point now where it can create, really well done books. What we don't have, are features that are, beautiful, those embossing, French flaps, UV coating. Right now, one of the biggest value adds, and it's one thing I probably should have talked about in the last question, one of the biggest value adds is speed of print on demand. So how quickly do you need it? How quickly do you need it into the market? And that is always going to be one of the biggest value propositions that print on demand offers to its supply chain and its clients. And so, I certainly do, I will never say that like, nothing's possible, but everything that we do will, the technology will evolve to always take into account how quickly we can get it into the supply chain and how quickly we can get it into the market. And those kinds of features, while we can still deliver a quality book that will still sell and that consumers will still, pay list price for, it's the difference between the features that add that time that create those delays in the supply chain. And so, whenever Lightning Source started, it was black and white interiors only. Back in 1998, it was black and white only. And so, we've obviously evolved to offer different products like hardcover, 4-color interiors. And so, the technology will continue to evolve and offer more options. But, certain features like embossing or spot UV are just something that doesn't fit into the workflow that allows for us to get a book printed and shipped, in same day.
Well, yeah, I was more referring to the 4-color process and trying to figure out if that will ever come close to the offset. I know I have some 4-color work that your company has done, and it's really of quality, but it still doesn't raise to the level of competing with offset. Do you ever see that happening?
Yeah, and I could go really operationally nerdy on this because I love actually talking about the way different inks get absorbed into different kinds of paper and how that creates like different visual, end results. I definitely see the technology. It'll continue to evolve. Will it ever, be in a situation where like offset, the sheets are done, and they're able to sit and sheet fed because of the way that print on demand is just focused on speed. The quality will always improve, but in terms of like glossy coated children's material, there's just no real technology that exists today for that, or at least that I'm seeing. But I think, it'll continue to improve, yes. But, if you're looking for a really glossy, coffee table book for your pictures of Big Sur, on the West Coast, we'll be able to get you a quality book, but with offset, it'll be a little bit different. Yeah, I think it comes down to what your consumer is willing to say yes or yes more.
Okay, well, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. So now let's talk a little bit about customer service. This one is for you, Bailey. I know that you guys are going through a little bit of customer service issues. How important do you feel customer service is to your small publishers, and where do you see that going? Do you see it going self-service, or do you see it going where they're actually having phone conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's fun because in the past 12 months, like what company hasn't had customer service issues?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
No,
Everything.
Absolutely.
Everything Yeah, everything has been, really highlighted in the past 12 months with the pandemic. In terms of customer support, what we want to do is really set up our clients for success. And so, what we always want to make sure we're doing is providing them with the right tools and education. And so, education is a real big initiative, and that's one thing that we spend a lot of time on. And we have two different platforms. We have Ingram Spark and Lightning Source, and it's based on your different business needs. And so, both platforms are really focused on education and what tools can we provide you so that, you aren't having to ask us, every few weeks, the same question. How do we, provide the right tools and the right things on the platform so that it's more easy for you to walk through that process? The future of customer support is always going to be, how do we make sure our customers succeed in the most effective and efficient way? And we have a great team. We have a wonderful team of customer support members who right now are mostly email. And what that means is that we're able to reply to our teams, our clients in a much quicker way. And so, it always comes down to how can we meet that need and how can we educate for future success? Mm-hmm. So it's really important. Our small presses, our independent publishers, our small authors, they all care. They all need to be able to get in contact with us when they need us. And so our call to action is how can we do that in the most effective way? And that's with education and the right channels through which to do that as quickly as possible.
Well, thank you. Brandie, same question. How does your customer service work? How does that work over there for the small presses that might be trying to contact you?
Well, nothing's done on an automated online kind of basis with Freezens. We have a lot of resources on our website that can help people along if they want to try to endeavor to do it themselves a little bit, or you can request a quote online. But we have, 17 different regions, as I mentioned, in my intro, throughout Canada and North America. We live and work in the regions in which we cover. If you're in the 6 states surrounding me, then I am the person directly that, handles preparing all of your quotes. You're always assigned to the same CSR because they work with that salesperson for you. And we really try to be hands-on to help all the way down to our, smallest publishing companies and self-publishing authors to really learn our process and the company, not company even, the industry lingo. There's so much just to know when you go into printing a project that's foreign to most people. It's a whole insider kind of, language and things we know about paper that, a person writing a book might not. We make a lot of resources that are, booklets to send out that help you as guides to book production and just to really be hands-on to learn all of those things that are going to set you up for success. That's actually the Friesens company motto, is that if you are successful, then we are successful. They even have some great initiatives with our technical department that you can submit files to our project early. We will run out contract proofs on that order, 6 to 10 pages for free, kind of let you see where your files are sitting, how things are looking before we even start the order and go to press, just to have a department that really, assists people with being on track and getting the print product that they want, once we're actively working on it.
That's great. Thanks. So the other one of the things we haven't covered today is distribution. So for Bailey, this is probably more your thing than Brandie's. How does a small press go from an Ingram Spark situation to having you actually do the distribution for them from a sales point of view?
Yeah. So whenever you ask that, do you mean going from Spark and evolving through that journey into a full service distribution client where we have a field sales team representing content?
Yes, I'm actually asking this from me.
Yeah.
How do you go from that? How do you go from Ingram Sparks to the next level? Because, I want to be at that next level. How would you tell a small publisher to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's almost something I could probably spend hours talking about, but really, just because this is, time, what I say is, for small presses who are starting out either at Spark or Lightning Source, what you need to do is focus on a few things. What your acquisition strategy is. A full service distributor always wants a publisher who has a solid author acquisition strategy that's targeted. So you're not just like saying, okay, I'm going to get any 6 authors per year, but you actually are, a solid acquisition strategy based on content and your brand, solid marketing strategy, social media strategy, things like that. And so focusing on that kind of stuff. I actually have some resources I'd be happy to share with you, Eddie, and if it's appropriate for the IP&E community, I'd be happy to share just some ways to build that foundation and grow on that if your goal is to be fully distributed. It comes down to acquisition, what your marketing strategy is, and what your pricing strategy is. So, you might start out at Spark not doing a full trade discount or a returnable option, but eventually that's where you'll have to grow, and that's where you'll have to fit your business model to be a full service distribution client and get that field sales representation.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I mean, I'm at that point right now in my career within Circle, of trying to go from the print on demand situation to the situation of having someone distribute our books for us.
Yeah.
And I look at it from the perspective of, why would I want to change what I'm now doing? Why would I want to go to a different company?
That's a great. Yeah, that's a good question to ask. That's one thing, your press will tell you whenever you're ready to move on. And it's like courting. It is going into business with another business effectively whenever you become a full service distribution client.
I'm going to switch over to Brandie for a second. Brandie, I'm going to switch the whole subject onto, what do you see as a future for the printing industry from your company's perspective? What do you see is going to happen in the near future? Turnaround time being faster, anything?
Freezens always has a lot of, initiatives on growth and what kind of, equipment we're going to bring in. We have put a lot of focus into our digital department in the past year in investing in some HP 10,000s and 50,000s. They can produce really excellent color critical work and reduce the turnaround times, because that is a point in which that we really, need to do better at competing with print on demand. If we're doing a digital project, our, turnaround, albeit you can get all of those fancy finishing effects that you like, is about 3 to 4 weeks for your project. So I definitely think that that's somewhere that, Friesens is going to be looking to push harder and kind of sharpen our skills and our equipment and our labor force to be able to be more competitive in that market.
That's great. So Bailey, what do you see the future looking like for printing?
Yeah, I mean, at least for the print on demand side, what we always want to focus on is how we can serve the supply chain in the best way possible. And so, right now we're able to do black and white, 4-color, paperback, jacketed case laminate, or paper on board is sometimes the term used in the market. Where it goes next. Really, we try and listen to our publishers. What are our publishers asking for the most, and what are they asking for that we can still fit into that workflow that allows us, to print and ship a book in the same day. There will be some things like spot lamination or page inserts, and I think we talked about page inserts the other day that will just not right now work into that workflow. But we're always taking a look at what's coming up. Definitely speed, definitely quality, absolutely a focus there, that we're not just getting a book out to the market quickly, but we're getting a good quality product out to the market. So that's where we really spend a lot of our time.
Oh, that's great. Let's see. Trying to think if there's any other subject we haven't hit yet. So I what happens if someone, I'm gonna, I guess, ask this to Bailey first and then Brandy, but what happens if there's a problem with a book? I know this happened to me recently, where one of my books got printed with our book cover on it, and then another publisher's book in it. How do you handle problems like that? What is the quality control that can stop that?
Yeah.
Is there one? Is there a system in there that looks for that?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great question. It probably doesn't happen as much with Brandies, just because they do in big batches, and it's very, very much, hands-on in that process. We do have a very, very low defect rate, but that doesn't mean they are not there. What happens there, if that were to happen, and if that happens, what we always recommend is reaching out to the support team. And what we do is we actually, we have, measures in place to be able to look and see when that book was printed, what line it was bound on, things like that. And we're able to really narrow down where it happened and take action as needed. It's an unfortunate, but it is a reality that sometimes defects do occur. But typically, we've got a support team available to call. And especially in those cases, if you let us know, we will replace it. If it was, sent to you, or if it was sent to a customer, we will send it directly to where it needs to go. When you have quality issues that were unfortunately avoidable, but still happened. And so, yeah, we have a lot of measures in place to do that, but humans are involved, and to be human is to err, right? And so
Yeah.
It does happen, but we always try and strive to make it right, and that's what we'll do.
I do want to say that out of all the books I have with you, I've had very, very little issues with problems like that. I mean, I picked that one out just because it's so unique.
Yeah.
But I have 125 books with you, and I think I've only had 2 or 3 issues, and they were minor issues. So I do want to stress that your quality overall it has been excellent. So I don't want to give the listener the wrong idea. It doesn't happen often. It just happened. So Brandy, what happens when something like that happens to you, where a client gets the wrong book, or the pages are upside down? I mean, I know from my previous career, I have seen where books come the right book, but the pages are upside down, or there's a sig missing. I would imagine you have the same type of thing. You just replace it. What happened?
It kind of buffered on my side here a little bit.
Okay. So did you hear that question? What happens when your company has an issue of a misprint or multiple misprints? I know your runs are faster, bigger at one time, like 25 books could get done wrong. Is there safeguards that you have in place?
So, like Bailey said, that's, less of a thing that happens in a large manufacturing process, because there are so many steps for a project to go through. And there is obviously quality control that's overseeing those books before they're actually boxed out and sent to the customer. But, like she also said, it is custom manufacturing every day. Every project is different. So it does happen. How we stand behind when there's a problem is really indicative of how we do business across the board. You're going to let your sales representative know. We have a department that then, initiates a resolution where they're going to really look into, from a manufacturing standpoint, how that happened, so that we can course correct and try to prevent that error down the line. Typically, our orders are sent out with overs. We have a 10% over clause. So usually you have gotten some extra books that are going to kind of absorb. If you have, 18 errored books, you still have the amount that you ordered correctly there correctly. But we reimburse you
Great.
for every errored book that you find. We send you a credit back for that book. If it is something that is pervasive and can't be covered by, just giving you the money back for those 18 books, then we'll 100% go back to press and reprint that book for you and recycle the errored books that were given to you.
Great.
I just wanted to jump in here and say that we're running toward the end of our session or episode, but it looks like this is a topic that we're going to need to explore repeatedly, especially as the technology changes and more individuals publish books. So appreciate. I'm Charlotte Pierce, the producer, and I would like to, just thank you both. I wanted to get this kind of perspective of the traditional print book printer and the newer sort of print on demand instant. I think there's a lot of us are just kind of still thinking about, the print books, and there's a large market for that. So thank you very much. And Eddie, you're the best host ever. This is Eddie's company, Encircle Publications, and I am at Pierce Press. And so, like I said in the beginning, if we have a form, if you'd like to book yourself on the show, we would really like to hear about topics and panelists that you think we should have on, or yourself. So please do that. We have an author spotlight every few weeks. We do about 2 podcasts a month, but the author spotlight every few episodes, and the priority booking is for IPNE, Independent Publishers of New England, and IBPA, Independent Book Publishers Association members. But just suggest yourself if you like. Anything else you want to wrap up with, Eddie?
I just want to thank them both for showing up today and being part of this. And if they have any last words, for either one of you, do you have last words, Brandie?
Thank you guys for inviting me on the show. I've never done anything like this before, so it's definitely a learning experience for me. I honestly think you should definitely have Bailey back on here. I could listen to her talk about how you distribute a book for the longest time. My head is full of a wealth of geeky paper, ink, print option stuff.
I think we have
she's a whole businesswoman. I'm here to tell you, she's a whole businesswoman.
Well, we had a guest, I think, from Canada.
Thank you, guys.
I think there's someone from Canada had a question. What can you say with regard to growing cost of printing and expensive shipping within Canada? So, that might be another topic for another time, but expensive shipping is an issue. Yeah.
Bailey, do you have last words?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brandie. This was amazing to participate on with you. Thank you, Charlotte and Eddie, for having us. We're always happy to answer questions, and I am at your disposal for any information you would like for me to present. I just really appreciate it. Education. And it all starts with the information we put out there. So I'm just glad to be here. Thanks for having us. And reach out if you need us. Thank you both. Eddie, you're you're hired.
Yeah.
And again, at piercepress.com/podcasts or /contact, you can get more information about the podcast and being a guest and so forth. Thank you so much.
Is she kicking us out, I think?
We're still live.
Oh. I think everyone else left us.
She didn't leave. That's
weird. Sorry. I
don't know what we're doing now.
All right.